Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Worldhoppers, a collaborative channel where all of the AdSense revenue and merch sales go to charity. I think most people have been on here before except for Jack, but we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves anyways. So we'll start with Jack and then we'll go clockwise.
Sure.
So go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe your favorite genres or what you're excited to talk about.
Yeah. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Jack. My channel is called Jack and the Book Stack. I read all genres. I do a lot of lifestyle, showing the bookish lifestyles, a lot of reading vlogs and themes. I love to theme things, and especially theming things for the books I'm reading. That's where my passion is, because I'm corny. And I'm excited for this, but I'm kind of nervous because I feel like I'm going to get canceled for some of my unpopular opinions.
Never.
They are severely unpopular. I'm kind of scared. I'm like, I kind of want to change some of my answers, but I'm just going to go with them and watch the hate flow.
Controversy is what fuels the internet, so it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's going to earn so much ad revenue for charity.
It is. And that's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it for the good.
Jessie.
Hi, I'm Jessie. My channel is The Bookish Mom, and I read mainly sci-fi and fantasy. I've been doing a lot of self-published reading this year, which is kind of, the new path that I've been taking, and I've been quite enjoying it. I also sprinkle in mom things every here and there, but we mainly stick to just reading and sometimes hearing little children in the background.
I'm Alyssa. My channel is Nerdy Nurse Reads. I predominantly read, for some reason, litfic. As much as I try not to read it, I keep reading it. And I also read fantasy and sci-fi, but it's a lot of litfic. I'm currently in the middle of the Booker long list and trying to get them all done before the short list comes out in a couple weeks. And it is a struggle, but yeah, I don't know what my answers are. I was thinking I could just say Lord of the Rings for everyone and see if I can get Roger to just like self-destruct, but I decided not to.
I love that.
Oh, amazing. I'm Sophia from the channel Sophia's Thoughts. I also mostly read fantasy at the moment, mostly slow 80s and 90s fantasy written by women. That's kind of my genre of choice at the moment. And I had to get my partner to help me answer these questions because as Alyssa said earlier, I have forgotten what books are, apparently, as soon as I was asked a question. So
Yes.
yay.
What is a book? I don't know.
I think
And then I'm Roger, and I just read fantasy, let's be honest. Every once in a while, I'm coerced into reading something else, like white noise or some nonsense like that. But I don't enjoy it, so. But let's jump straight into this with
You
question
enjoyed
number 1.
your balloon.
Oh, that was good.
But that was
though.
fantasy. That was basically fantasy. That wasn't science fiction. There was magic there and witches and like
Balloons.
It was balloon porn.
with a surprising amount of characters and like backstory though for how short it was. It was good.
They did a good
Okay.
job.
Question number 1, a genre great that you don't get the hype for, and we'll just keep going in the same order. So Jack.
Okay, so this is the first thing I'm about to trigger. I'm about to trigger some people. So the genre in question in my mind is grimdark. So I'm newer to fantasy, and I'm trying this subgenre of fantasy because I want to see, like, everyone talks so highly of it. And so a genre great, like the cornerstone. I know Alyssa is like, her eyes are all wide. She knows what I'm going to say. I feel like A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't understand. I'm on book 2. But I'm like, this isn't even a fantasy. This is just medieval warfare. Like, there's dragons in the beginning, there's like zombie things, but like most of it, I'm like, where is the fantasy? So I think
feel like you need to keep going.
I will, but it's like a solid 3 stars for me so far. So I don't get why everyone's going all googly eyes over this series so far, and the subgenre of grimdark.
Grimdark is fantastic. You need.
See, I triggered somebody already.
It's a fine line.
You need to read, oh God, what is it called? Godblood. They literally nail someone's testicles to something. Like, and it's fantastic. And it's Grimdark by women is particularly brutal in just like a really satisfying way. Like,
okay. Well, and that's the thing, Grimdark, it so far, so I've read the 2 books in A Song of Ice and Fire and the First Law trilogy. And I'm just like, I'm so unsatisfied.
Get away from the men. Grimdark by women.
Men are unsatisfying.
Men are very unsatisfying.
Well, and it was so funny because I was trying to think of a comparison for this. I'm like, it's like going on a blind date and it was like a horrible date. Like you're disappointed, like a letdown. That's how I feel by the Grimdark I've tried so far, because I'm expecting 5 stars when I go into these books because of the way people hype Grimdark. And I hear First Law and A Song of Ice and Fire in people's lifetime favorite books. And I'm just like, huh? So
yeah.
Song of Ice and Fire is hard because I feel like a lot of people who've read it after the show, and it's hard to separate your nostalgia of the show and those characters from the books, because I'm like that. I watched the show multiple times before I ever picked up the books. And it's like the books, in hindsight, I like, but it's like I don't know if I would like them as much if I hadn't read the show or hadn't watched the show.
Read the show. You've read the whole show.
It's just a lot of things are for shock value, and so I'm just unsatisfied. I'm like missing. It's all this build up and then just a letdown. So far, but I'm new to it, so I'm still trying to figure it out.
That's how I feel
like
about
Alyssa said, the men tend to just be grotesque to be grotesque. Sometimes there's just content you're like, that didn't have a purpose.
Women are like,
Thanks
it's like satisfying. You're like, yes, that guy needed his testicles.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like, that was justified.
Some men like that. Yeah. See, I have zero desire to read A Song of Ice and Fire, so you've made it farther than me.
I have neither read nor watched it.
I have also not watched it.
I've only watched the first season like 3 times. So I keep being like, no, I'm going to watch this. And then I start from the beginning again. And then I never go anywhere.
I have watched enough spoiler videos on YouTube that I don't need to watch it.
Okay, Jesse, your turn. What's a genre great that you don't get the hype for?
The Wheel of Time. We're coming not with that one.
I feel like that's a given. I feel like everybody feels that way.
I tried. And I can't. I read, I think, the first 2. And they're
I think The Wheel of Time only really clicks for people when they're first getting into or back into fantasy. Because when you talk to people who it's like their favorite series of all time, it's like, it's what got me into it. If it's not what got you into it.
Well, then that might be good. So I'm expecting the first 8 books to be delivered to my doorstep today. So I'm frightened. But Roger,
if you don't like the first 2, then you should just jump ship.
Okay.
If you don't like Lord of the Rings,
haven't read it.
It very quickly becomes its own.
Nobody
thing.
likes
Book one is very
the
much
first book. Overhyped.
The first book is very much like a direct, basically like Fellowship of the Ring. And then book 2, it really starts to become its own thing. And book 2 is many people's favorite of the entire series. So like, if you don't like book 2, just like, don't bother reading all 15.
It's
I will not.
A tedious amount of detail.
Yeah, a lot of people like book 2 and book 4.
Book 4? Book 4 is where I stalled. I remember we had this conversation before, and you were like, Alyssa, that's where it's still good. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Where?
That is where it's still good, though. Book 6, it starts to like, and then book 12 was really good, but like that's a big ask to get all the way back up to.
It gets real good when you get to the end.
No, the end was not satisfying for me. Book 14 was not.
Oh god.
Well, look, Jay from Captured in Words is supposedly planning on doing some recap videos for everything that happens in each of those books, and I am seriously considering watching all of those and then just reading the Sanderson ones.
Do it.
Sounds like a plan, actually.
Yeah.
I'm there with you, Sophia.
Even apparently when you get to the end, you're unhappy. So
well, I just like more catharsis in the end. I like to see more of like what happens after.
Yeah.
You like to go back to the Shire.
I do. And then from the Shire to the Grey Havens, and then from the Grey Havens back to the Shire to watch Sam with Rose. Like, I need all of that. I need like the last half of the 3rd book to just be what happens after.
You want like
giant
10
epilogue.
Yeah.
Just one book that's just epilogue.
Okay, Alyssa, it's your turn.
I will probably upset somebody, but Dune. I thought Dune was an absolute hot piece of garbage, and I hated it. And the fact that people said to me, "Oh no, but read book 2." No, screw you. I'm not reading book 2. It's not happening. I'm not reading a second book to see if maybe I don't think it's a piling thing of poo. Like
People seem surprised when I said Dune was homophobic. I'm like, every villain in Dune is gay or effeminate. What do you mean you don't know that it's not homophobic? Okay.
And like all the stuff with like set in sort of vaguely Middle Eastern, like referencing when it's sort of uncomfortable the way it's done. I the sand people. I'm like, this feels like I'm talking to my conservative relatives. Like I don't feel comfortable here.
I didn't make it to the end. Boat. I DNF'd Dune.
Oh, it's so bad.
I think I made it halfway and I'm like, nope. Absolutely not.
I've been trying to read like the canonical works just to like have them, and Dune was probably the worst. The worst. At least I read 4 of Wheel of Time.
Beat me. The Dune movie wasn't bad though.
I like the original one. I think it's hilarious, and it's a fantastic group watch. It's the best group watch you will ever have.
Camp. I love it.
So good.
I love a good cheesy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sophia.
I'm gonna go with Name of the Wind because I just don't get it. Sorry.
I think it's boring.
Fine,
unless
but I
you
don't
really
understand.
like it.
Huh?
It's boring, but I like that boring. It's like a ballad. It's like a long ballad.
Maybe
Your
I should
lip
read
girly
it
is
again.
showing,
Because...
Alyssa. I lip fit girly.
Well, I'm into
boring.
boring books now, so maybe I should read it again and I'd get on better. But I think because when I read it, it was like maybe it's not as hyped anymore because people are just like giving up on the series ever being finished. But at the time that I read it, it was really hyped, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's fine, but I don't understand. Sorry.
It's another I have not yet brought myself to read book because I'm like, is it ever going to be done? No, I don't want to join those ranks.
That's why I didn't continue. I haven't read the second one or the novella because I'm just like, there are so many completed series that I can't get finished. Why am I going to continue with this book?
There are so many ways for me to be unsatisfied that I can just not. But I'm still like enjoy my time with the first one, and if magically the last one ever shows up, I'll complete it.
Well,
maybe Sanderson will finish that one.
Maybe Sanderson will finish it.
I guess since we're just all starting fights today, I'll say I don't get the Realm of the Elderlings. I don't understand the hype for Hob. I've read Farseer, and I've read Ship of Magic. Is that the first one in the Live Ship Traders? So there's still much to go. But from what I've read so far in Farseer and Live Ship Traders, I get that Hob likes to do the trauma, but I never get the equal high that makes it worth it for me. I just feel like I just sit in the suck, and I don't enjoy that. And I don't necessarily understand people who feel that way. And I know that people feel like they get catharsis by book, whatever it is, 16 or something, but I really would prefer to have catharsis much faster than like...
Just give up, 16. Roger. It never changes.
I figured.
The whole realm of the Elderlings is just about trauma. That's all it is.
So it sounds like I would love it.
I still haven't read it yet, but it is on the plan.
I don't mind sitting in the trauma, but I like there to be the victories that make me feel like it was worth it. But just the way that Hob does it, it's always smaller, and I get that it's like more realistic healing, but there's never going to be like the bad guy really gets his testicles nailed to the wood or whatever it is.
Well, I love trauma. I will sit in trauma all day.
And I read like the first trilogy and I loved it. It's one of my favorites. So Farseer, loved it. And then I DNF'd Live Ship Traders halfway through. So book 1.5. And I'll pick it up again. But exactly what Roger said is how I feel like it's relentless. The trauma is relentless and never ending. And if it depends on what's going on in your life, because I just felt so trapped and powerless. It made me feel anxious. It just made me feel gross, like depressed. And there needs to be a big payoff, but also just So they're fat books, right? You're 900 pages of just misery, and it was too much for me, so I had to put it down because it was bumming me out severe.
Never read A Little Life, any of you.
Oh, I read it.
Anybody
I
ever?
Oh no!
Do
I
not
didn't think that
read
was
it.
sad. I didn't think that was sad at
You
all.
didn't think that was
No,
sad?
I think the
You
person that
have a
the
heart?
person you're supposed to feel sad for, I think, was toxic and manipulative for all of his friends.
Broken.
I was hoping he would die. I'm like, is that supposed to be what's sad? Because I want him to go. He was horrible.
Broken.
But just because you're broken doesn't mean you can use that against everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, oh God, he was horrible. He was horrible. No. Oh, see, I'm canceled again. Unpopular opinion. A Little Life is manipulative.
This is going well so far, I'd say.
Love
Hey. What else you got for me?
Question number 2. What's an adaptation you wish was never made?
Okay, it's like a movie adaptation, right?
Or show, whatever.
This
Or
is what I
video
feel.
game if you're a gamer.
What is that?
Little Women.
I thought it should be like A Little Life.
I know, right? I have that on top of my head. So the more recent one, what's her name? The Greta Gerwig one?
Whatever.
I saw it in the theaters and I almost walked out. It was so bad. And people love it, but I'm like, have you read the book? So what bugs me about the movie is they do like time jumps instead of like a consecutive timeline. They go back and forth, but the actors are the same. So I could not tell what timeline we were in because the actresses don't age, right? So I'm like, what? And so I was so emotionally detached, and like this book makes me cry constantly, but the movie I was too confused to know what was going on. So even though that's a really popular adaptation and people say that it made them love the book even more, I don't like it.
So
Do you
you're
not like
more
only
Winona.
that one? Or yeah, I was gonna ask, do you like the Winona?
I think that one's better. Yeah. Yeah. But it's still like the book is still better.
I liked it. It's not the book though.
Yeah.
It's like to me, they're two different stories. It's like you made a more feminist Little Women and
True.
modernized it.
Real stickler for if she can't tell what timeline she's in, because it's what ruined like Empire of the Vampire for her too, was like, where am I? What timeline? What is going on? If the timeline is not clear, she's gone.
She's out.
Yep.
If people have unresolved trauma, she's out.
Oh, no, I second that. I'm with her. Bye. Like, you have that on your own.
You guys just aren't broken enough on the inside, so you don't understand.
No, we're sufficiently broken on our own. We don't need extra.
Yeah,
we need more.
We want to explode the
Meanwhile,
trauma.
I'm broken and I
like
just want to see that
Friends.
in someone else.
Like, you can relate to the trauma, but you want to see them win. Like you're there for them overcoming
I
it.
want to
And
sit
Not
in
until
this
I
box with
win.
someone.
yeah.
Then you will love Realm of the Elderlings, Alyssa. That should be like the top of your fantasy TBR.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
It's the A Little Life of fantasy.
And it's a
Basically.
female author, like who was writing back in like the 90s and like solid.
All right, so it's for my time, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
For the old ladies.
For us old ladies, I love it.
I'd say I resent that, but it's fair.
Right? Like I can't deny it.
I know I saw like a meme earlier that was like, kids today talking about the 90s are like kids in the 90s talking about the 60s, and I wanted to cry.
I still think the 90s were 10 years ago, and it really hurts that it's not.
Yeah. Same.
I wish it was.
Mm.
My
Okay,
gray hairs
Jesse, what's an
scare me.
adaptation that you wish was never made? What's the abomination that you don't like?
Any anime that is made into a live action. Avatar, The Last Airbender. It counts. It's kind of a book.
Wow.
Those are the worst.
Because there's the Full Metal
Anything-
Alchemist one on Netflix. One Piece has a live action movie coming out on like Friday.
I will be watching that. And I will be hating it. But I will be watching
I
it.
will watch it to hate it.
I will watch it and I will hate it and I will complain about it. And I'm like, just let it be animated. Let it live. Because
No. Because they don't have anything else to film for us. So they're
and they get all like white people
Yeah.
to play all these
What is
like Asian characters. You're like, but why?
The Full Metal Alchemist one did have Asian actors,
did.
but they did put him in a horrible blonde wig.
Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. It was like my 10-year-old watched the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action like first. She just like happened to come across it on Netflix, and I'm like, absolutely not. She's like, it wasn't bad. I'm like, baby, you're 10 and you haven't seen. You don't
have
know
taste
yet.
yet.
Then we watched the entirety of the animated series together, and she's like, okay, I don't disagree with you. I'm like,
Big wins.
parenting wins. Parenting done right. Nothing that starts as manga should ever be live action.
I agree with that. I think I don't think that's unpopular. I think that's a good opinion.
It's probably not unpopular, but
That
like
is the
that's the
right
first
opinion.
thing
That is
that jumped to my head.
correct.
Like,
The next one of these could just be correct opinions. Oh my god. So I had the Netflix Rebecca, but the longer you held up that Little Women, and I've got one. I really don't understand the hype for the newest Pride and Prejudice, and I don't understand why everybody has such a hard on for it, because I grew up with the 90s like A&E extended version of that, and that thing is perfection. And I'm sorry, yes, it's beautiful, it has a fantastic soundtrack, but it is not true to the text. And if you are like a weirdo, and if you really love Jane Austen, like how can you pick that one? How can you pick that one? How?
The BBC adaptation is superior.
And like I grew up with the 80s BBC adaptation, and like that guy who's now balding and weird looking is my Mr. Darcy. Like my formative years were like that's my. Then I got then I like grew up and had Colin Firth coming out of a pond or whatever. Like you can't beat that.
I think that is an unpopular opinion.
That is a very unpopular
Just
opinion.
conclusion. Yeah. Yeah.
So we can be canceled together.
It's good. We'll all be canceled. We'll just have
all
each
of
other.
us.
I know the Hob fans are going to come for me.
I don't know. Those Pride and Prejudice girlies are.
Oh no,
quite
the
a pack.
Dune fans are terrifying.
The Dune fans are terrifying too. But there's a lot of dudes in there, so
Probably why they're terrifying.
So I don't know that mine are necessarily unpopular opinions either, but I have two that I want to mention real quick. And the first one I'll just briefly mention, it's The Hobbit, because there's absolutely no reason a children's book needed to be 3 films. Just unnecessary. They just wanted the money. The other one is The Golden Compass, and I will die on this hill. It is not a compass. It's an alethiometer, and it drives me nuts. Not only is the film bad, but the name
it's inaccurate.
it's just rage in my soul.
Because in the UK, it's Northern Lights or something, right? For the first
It's
book?
called The Northern Lights, and I know the book in America, but I have a problem with that as well, because I'm like, what does a compass do? It tells you where north is. What does an alethiometer do? It answers questions. Those two things are not even remotely the same.
Well, I mean, if your question is where is north, then
Well, yeah, okay. So that
Did you watch the newer adaptation on HBO?
I've seen some of it, but not all of it. But it was better than the original.
The No Pigment movie?
But yeah.
It was bad.
Well, I think my unpopular opinion for this is I don't really get all that mad at adaptations. I like all the seasons of Game of Thrones. I rewatched season 8 when we get there. I liked The Wheel of Time. We're rewatching season 1 right now to watch season 2. I don't get that mad about it. If I'm entertained, love it. If I'm not, then I'll just stop watching it. But I'm never like, how dare this abomination. Even I remember I didn't hate the Avatar live action movie when I was younger and it first came out.
Well, okay, follow-up question then, because it's an unpopular opinion that you have here.
Right.
Your
What
opinion
is an adaptation
incorrect.
that you think was better than the book?
Heartstopper.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That's not as triggering
Count
of
of Monte
an
Cristo.
Hmm?
Count of Monte Cristo.
Like with Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, no, that's the Man in the Iron Mask.
I
That's
literally
Sorry.
have that right here as
What's
like
his name?
I was-
Sorry.
I
Guy
was thinking
Pearce.
about that as an answer. I have Count of Monte Cristo right here because I was like,
The adaptation, 20 times better.
no, it's the one with Richard Chamberlain, like in the 60s or 70s, I think, was way better. It's not a
I haven't seen
romance.
that one.
It's not a romance. I don't know why the adaptation needs to make it into a love
Because
I
they
don't
make
care. I
everybody a romance. Like,
I
everything
loved the
has to be a romance.
adaptation. It was nothing like the book, and that's probably why I liked it.
I hated the
But I
books.
do like
It
the
was
graphic
great.
novels, Sophia. I do like the graphic novels of Heartstopper, but the show is better for me.
Both are just exceptionally cute. So
I don't
Yeah.
watch
watch
enough
the show.
TV and stuff to really have too many things to throw into this category.
Well, this one you probably do have. So a book or series
Well,
that
I
you
have
to
a
fight
new
back
one
your-
now with a little life, but that's okay. We're gonna move on.
that you have to fight back your inner snob because you kind of think people just don't get it.
Okay, so my answer, I don't think it's an unpopular one. I wasn't sure what to go with. So I looked at my Goodreads, sorted my read books by the lowest rating. And I was shocked to see that the horror book, Just Like Home, was one of the lowest rated books. So I read this horror book in May and I loved it. So I don't know. I don't think I'm a snob for loving it, but I'm like, did you just not get it? Because I thought it was great. It was scary, like haunted house vibes. I loved it. So I don't get why it has such bad ratings.
Yeah, I haven't
Haven't
read that
read
one
it.
yet,
I
but
have
I
no-
like Sarah Gailey. I like their other books that I've read.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, it's not necessarily an unpopular opinion. I saw the ratings and I was
Wait,
like, what?
did Sarah Gailey do the Magic for Liars?
Yes.
I did not like that book.
A lot of people didn't, and I loved it.
I loved the whole setup, and then it just kept going, and it just didn't. It didn't keep that love. It just, I don't know, something fell short. It was such a shame. It was set up so well.
You
It
just
was
don't
set
get
up.
it. You just don't
I
get
just
it.
didn't get it.
Definitely I get it.
That's not my answer, though.
We're the snobs.
Not your answer.
Like, we get
We're
it.
the snobs. God, I can think of a few. The 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. That was the first one that comes to mind. And I'm just like, if a book makes me cry, I'm giving it 5 stars. And just the fact that it was in second person and then the culmination at the end of the first book. And I'm like, I have to contain myself when people are like, it's stupid. I'm like,
not
Well, I'm going to
stupid.
validate you here, Jessie, and tell you I don't get it.
You could not get it, but it's not stupid. It's
Right.
That's not the answer.
Right.
I
But
think
it's like one of those books, or like when people hate on like Sword of Kaigen, which doesn't happen often.
I thought that was like a universally loved book.
It is, but I've had a lot of people recently say that they didn't get it. They didn't like it. Like, I don't understand why it's so hyped. And I get that it is kind of info dumpy at the beginning. But
A lot of fantasy books are info dumpy. at the
right,
beginning.
I'm like, is this your first fantasy? Is this
There's
Well, I
a
also
lot of
kind of
stuff
like the
I'm
idea-
here. Set up.
Because if you go the other way and you have stuff like Malazan where you get no information, I would much rather have the info dump and understand what the hell is going on.
You could have read. What did we just read, Roger? The air, Jasad something or other.
The Jasad Air.
That was horrendous experience.
I
You
mean,
were very,
it was-
you were very middle of the road on that. That was less than good.
Oh no, I still have
Really?
that one. I have an
Oh.
arc of that still that I have.
I got it in my subscription box. I haven't read it yet.
I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
I skipped it.
That's good. Anyway, that's also not my answer.
That's also
What
not
is
my
your
answer,
answer?
but what is?
My answer. Well, my answer is A Discovery of Witches because I fucking love that series. Am I allowed to curse? It's happening.
I think we're far enough in that like it's
The,
like within the first so many minutes.
So the amount of people who have like come back and been like, I couldn't make it past book 1. I love every second of this. I love the amount of detail she gives. I guess my litfic girly is showing. I love everything. I want magic to be real. I just want it all. I want to like self-insert into this story so hard. And like I love it so much. And I don't get why people find it boring. You just don't get it.
I just don't get it.
You just don't get it.
That one needs to go up on my TBR. If you're categorizing it within boring, then
It is like, so every book in the series is kind of different. So like the first, it's a little bit, I think the hardest thing is that your two main characters fall in love and have a relationship in book one, as opposed to having it happen like later in the series. But there's so many, so it's not even really about their romance, it's about like what their romance does. And so then you follow that arc instead of just like the romance arc. And it's really interesting. There's book two is completely unlike book 1 and 3 in like the best way, in my opinion, possible, if you're like historical things. And then there's some really great side characters, especially later in the series. They get more page time and you get to learn more about them. And I think it's fun. And I honestly just want magic to be real. I want to time walk and set things on fire and have a sexy vampire man. Like, I want it all to be real. I want to go to Cambridge. Like, I just.
Well, Cambridge is real.
Cambridge is real.
No.
So that's one step in the right
I can
direction.
do one thing. I can go to Cambridge.
You can set things on fire too. That's a very real possibility.
No, I can't set Cambridge on fire. Take that back. Next week, Cambridge is on fire and everyone's looking at me.
They're like,
Where were you? I swear I was at the hospital.
So I'm going to take us back to the realm of the Elderlings and say Assassin's Quest, because everybody hates that book, and I'm just like, no, you just don't appreciate the long walk that Fitzy has to take, and that's okay. But I do
Assassin's
get
Quest
it,
was
and I
my
love it.
favorite. Assassin's Quest was my favorite of the original trilogy. I just didn't love the end because
Roger's trying to
little
score
fast.
back points.
No, I have a whole
I'm in the
30-minute
minority
video
there,
where I
though.
said this in the past.
Most people like Royal Assassin best out of that trilogy.
That one I don't get.
No, I don't get it either. Like, I like it, but it's not better than Assassin's Quest. So that's me.
For me, I guess I'll say, just since Alyssa brought it up earlier, I'll say Lord of the Rings. I think if people don't like it, they're dumb. And if they don't like it, then they should just go back and try it again with the Andy Serkis audiobook narrations, because as I told Alyssa, that is the superior way to consume this story.
I didn't realize I had options, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like halfway through book 3, and he's like, "Alyssa, what are you listening to?" It's superior. I was like, "This is perfection." The voices are
because
so
even
good.
when people say that it's like overly descriptive, I'm like, not compared to some of the trash that I've been reading more recently. Like, I feel like Hobb is very descriptive with every meal that Fitz has ever eaten and everywhere he has ever laid his head to rest.
That's the way
And
I
then
felt
I'm
with
like-
Wheel of Time. I'm like, I don't need to know every like facet of this person's dress, but then also not understand anything that's going on. Like, I can't have both of those things happening at once.
we don't
And that's why
need
I like
all
Lord
of
of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings, I guess it's morely descriptive about like setting, like the trees or whatever, and I like that because it gives me like atmosphere versus like the swirls on her dress and the gold buttons inlaid with mother of nobody cares.
But
I'm
like,
the
that's
opposite. I'm the
You want-
opposite way around exactly. Like, I do not need a 10-page description of this cave. I'm sorry. Like,
But it's
tell me
never
what you
that
ate
long.
for dinner. Great. But
it just feels that long. But that's the way people like used to write. Like, a lot of classics have like long.
But it's not
Especially
even
in third
that long.
person, like,
People
narratives.
are very hyperbolic with how they talk about the descriptions in Lord of the Rings. It is not that much of it.
It was not as tedious as I thought it would be.
to be fair, you're right, though. It's completely a different way of writing, because I think they were paid by the word.
I mean, that's what Dickens was paid by the word. That's why every
Right.
Dickens book is like, shoot me in the face. Like, I can't keep reading this. Can you pare this down? This didn't need to be said like this.
Right. I need to get paid. How
Just
do
read
we-
the abridged version that's like 2 hours long, and then you're good to go.
I think that covers it. I think we're good.
Right, give me the Sparks Notes, please.
Okay, next question is, what is a book or series that you are tired of everybody hating on?
Okay, so my answer, similar. I think people just don't get it. Ugh. Atlas Shrugged.
Oh, I've got that on my TBR.
I'd be
I feel
interested.
like that
to
would
know
have
what you
people
think.
have a hard time separating from the author, because she was like in her interviews and stuff, she's a little interesting.
It is very hard to separate from her, but I've stalled out on that book several times and finally have given up.
I mean, when we're talking about big books and like lengthy descriptions and like a monologue that is like a huge chunk of pages, like 20 pages long, like I get it. But I was just so mesmerized when I read it. Oh, see, you got it.
I do enjoy. I enjoy her descriptions, especially like in the beginning. There's like a lot of rainy scenes, and I feel like it was really beautifully written. But then they're like looking for that, like, I don't know what they're looking for, catalytic converter or whatever, and they're like, they're somewhere. They end up somewhere on this journey, and I stall out every time, like about halfway through their little train journey.
And like that doesn't surprise me in the least. I can totally relate to that. It's just, it's so funny because I see, first of all, I hate this question and I don't know where I saw it. It's not on like Bookstagram for sure, but it's general Facebook or something. But the question of, if you walk into someone's house and you see this book on their bookshelf, what would make you turn around and walk out? And the most popular answer I see is, well, the 4-Hour Work Week. I've seen that one. But also Atlas Shrugged. And I'm like, why is everybody hating on this? You just don't get it.
No, for me, it'd be like if they had Mein Kampf on the shelf.
Right.
But pretty much
I'd be
anything else is fair game.
Right.
Right.
You know how much shit I get about Mein Kampf in my comments because I made one video about Book Outlet and like somebody had posted somewhere that like at some point there was like Mein Kampf I guess had been selling somewhere and on Book Outlet and it's gone. Like, you know, they have like short inventories and the amount of people that go into my comments still on that stupid video and go off about Mein Kampf, about how it's important and like all these things and like you're calling me an anti-Semite. I'm like, no, just what? Like every couple weeks I get another person like paragraphs of like why Mein Kampf is important. It is mind-boggling.
That okay.
The amount of people that are butthurt about this. I just everybody knows about it.
Yeah,
You can find it on the internet. We don't really need to be like Mark.
It doesn't need to be paid for.
No. Somebody was like, if they had a display at Barnes & Noble, would you get on the internet? And yes, I would be very upset if I walked by my regular Barnes & Noble and there was like a giant Mein Kampf display. I'd be like, excuse me.
What are you doing? Yeah. Why?
How about we put some other books out?
Yeah, I don't get that one.
Yeah.
Just don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't get it.
We don't get that one.
You will now have so many comments of people being like, the Mein Kampf girl is here.
Oh my God.
Oh, no.
This whole video is just gonna be chaos.
Oh God. Sorry.
Okay, Jesse, what's a book or series that you're tired of people hating on?
Oh God.
She says Mein Kampf. And
Yeah. No. Darn, you stole my answer. I can't think of one in particular, but I think Roger's actually going to agree with me on this. All of early 2000s YA. Why do we have to go back and be like, how much we hate Twilight and whatever, like Shatter Me and like whatever, all the like cheesy, probably arguably not great.
Yeah, Shatter Me is pretty bad, but
Like,
I read that like recently, not.
But
I
but
read
is
it
it?
in the tie. Like,
There's a point to this though. I don't know if it's so much. I don't think the hate is so much a reflection on the actual books, as much as it is a reflection of we have to hate on things that are popular for teenage girls.
Yes.
Like it's the hype.
Taylor Swift.
It's, you know, whatever
Right.
is the fad for teenage girls. When I was a kid, you know, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, right? Like the boy bands. And so we have to make fun of the boy bands because they're popular with teenage girls. And I think these books are the same thing. I think like TikTok right now is the big thing that like we have to hate on things that are popular with that demographic. So I agree with you. And I don't think the hate is a reflection of the books as much as it's a reflection of the hype.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
I agree
Because
with that.
it's like anything that comes out that's marketed like even today, like it's YA fantasy romance and it's probably going to be read by, you know, kids a little bit older than my daughter. Everyone is automatically like talking about how terrible it is. And arguably I might not like it, but like why?
Well, I don't even
why
think
is
it's
it-
limited
like
to
that.
early 2000s. I feel like it's any
Mm.
YA because if you listen
Yeah.
to any book, oh, it was very YA, and you're like, okay. well, first of all, you're like a 35-year-old grown-ass adult, so it wasn't really for you in the first place. And
Right.
second of all, like YA is still where all of the diversity is happening. The gay characters, the people of color, the trans, that's all YA because it's the only place that people will publish it still.
I going to Jack, you saying something about like people on Facebook. I saw something scrolling. I avoid it like the plague, but like I work in marketing, so I unfortunately have to go on Facebook more often than I would ever like. And I was scrolling, and it was like somebody said, I forget what book it was. I think it was probably Fourth Wing.
Probably.
And they were like, I don't understand how this is classified as fantasy. It's definitely YA.
Oh,
It's
why
not a
not?
genre.
Like, oh, it's so frustrating.
Not a genre.
The amount of things that got classified as genres that aren't genres. There's a book on the Booker long list that has like autism like rep. It's written by an autistic author, and on Goodreads under genre is autistic. Autistic is not a genre. Okay. It's just not a genre. I mean, maybe it may become one in the future, but currently it's not
Currently
genre.
not a genre.
YA is not a genre.
Yeah.
Middle grade's not a genre.
Right. It's like there is fantasy in YA. There is like it's an age range.
It's an age range. Oh. I don't have one book. I just have like any romantasy because I feel like sort of similarly to YA, I feel like people get on you for like reading any romantasy whatsoever and acting like it's fluff. You know what? We get fluff. It's fine. Let us have fun. Let us have a moment. Let me
Romantasy
swoon.
is so difficult because it's so hard to pin what the balance is between the fantasy and the romance for different people. Because I'm like, I want the romance to be like a strong subplot, but I don't want it to be the main plot. I want some cool fantasy shenanigans happening where the romance happens in the background. But other people are like, no, we just want to go to Pound Town with some devil wings and some magic and some tingly rod action or whatever.
Well, see, and I don't mind. Like, we can go to, like, the books can go to Pound Town. That's fine. But for me,
You can go both ways for me.
where-
I just need you
where
to
it gets-
commit well
yeah.
to one of them.
where it
Yeah.
gets ridiculous is it's like the world is ending, right? It's a fantasy book, world is ending, but it's like we got to bang it out right now.
Right now.
That's where the romantasy gets
No,
loses.
Alyssa
meaning.
is all for that. As long as the pounding is good, she's like, let's go.
Yes.
Where go?
Let the world burn.
Fine. I mean, it doesn't take that long, guys. Okay. The world will still be burning.
The world is still. We got 5 minutes, y'all. It's
Give
fine.
me a second.
Oh, priorities.
Cambridge is still on fire. It's fine.
The apocalypse takes a while.
We all have needs. Okay.
Well, I had
children.
Twilight on my list, but since we've discussed that already, I will mention the Queen of the Tearling trilogy because a lot of people like the first book is very typical European fantasy type vibes, but then as the books go on, the genre kind of changes, and I won't say in what way because spoilers, but people just seem to get unnecessarily upset about the fact that the last book is not the same as the first book, and I'm just like, it's still good though. So I don't know why people will just like completely refuse to read the Queen of the Tearling series because some people really hate the last book. I'm like, yeah, but they're wrong. Sorry.
Hasn't Elle even like put off reading the other two books because she always hears that the series doesn't end well?
Yeah. I'm like, read it. It's good.
I still need to read that.
I guess I don't know if I have it. Let's see, a Booker series I'm tired of people hating on. I guess since Jack is here, I'll say Empire of the Vampire. People hate on it, and it's not fair. Let my inner 2000s gothic emo girl in Hot Topic have her moment.
That's like every Kristoff book, though, is just like, let me.
I haven't read Nevernight yet. I have it.
Oh,
I like Roger. I'll try it again. I'll try Empire of the Vampire again. I think so. My problem with it, and he mentioned it earlier, but it's that it's this interview style. So every line starts with quotation marks because our main character is telling somebody the story of his life, essentially. So
Mhm.
I was so confused. Where are we present day and he's telling the story, or what is like in the past, or what is dialogue? I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell where we were or who was talking and when. And so I was too confused. And then I
Don't
was
read Ruin of Kings, is all I have to say, because I
Okay.
don't think you will understand where you are at any given time.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. And so it could have just also been the time. Like maybe I was just feeling cranky and like wanted more of an escape read and not putting that much brain power towards it. But I like Jay Kristoff's writing. I like the sarcasm of it. And so it's just that one book just really rubbed me there. I liked Interview with a Vampire, which is also interview style. So I don't know what my problem is. I'm a hypocrite.
Really popular to hate on too. So there you go. More unpopular opinions from Jack today.
Right.
Yep.
Let's mosey right along. Okay, come on, show. Number 5, a book or series everyone thinks is really powerful, but you didn't connect with.
I'm really sorry, guys.
Jujubee.
Every answer Jack has like.
I know. I'm not making any friends today.
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
Okay, so to be fair, I have not read it.
Oh, okay.
So I know.
Interesting
Listen,
take. Okay.
I know. So take my opinion for what it's worth. But I think the Harry Potter series is so popular because it's nostalgic for people. So I've watched all the movies. I haven't, but I watched the movies and I'm like, I don't care about the books. I was entertained up until A Goblet of Fire, and then I'm like, WTF is going on? Like it made me never want to read a book again because it was like so. And was it the last one that's split into 2? And I'm like, how could you make this? Who would want to read this? And so I think that. But I think Harry Potter is so beloved.
I mean, a lot of us did.
It's nostalgic. It's nostalgic for people, right? And I think that's a huge element. We were talking about A Song of Ice and Fire. People may adore it more because they watched the show and it's nostalgic for them. I think that's what Harry Potter is. So I enjoy it, the first like 3, but I don't understand why it's such a huge franchise, I guess. But I also haven't read it, so...
It's a moment.
It was a cultural moment.
Like, it was a moment.
Standing in line in robes at Barnes and Noble at midnight while the like.
But don't worry, she really found a way to ruin that moment.
Oh yeah,
for many people.
I mean,
here's the thing: like, I love the culture around it. I love when people are excited about things, and I don't hate on anybody for loving it. I just don't understand. It's so powerful to people. And I don't connect with it. And that's the question, right? Like,
it's now a very weird thing, I think, for many people who really loved it, myself included. Like my partner was really excited and he bought me like tickets to go to some weird show thing in like the city of like stuff from the movies. And we went and it felt so hollow and strange to see something that you really loved. And that was much more like about like love and like finding family and all these other things, and then having it sort of be tainted by the author. It was really hard. It's a very weird thing now, I feel like. Yeah. So I think that colors how you look at it now, looking back. How did it get so big? Because I feel like the steam has sort of gone out of the engine. Like we're not. It doesn't. Yes, it still has a lot of popularity. Yes, there are people that really are gung ho about it, but I think there's a lot of the people, especially in like the bookish social media space, I think have lost a lot of that love for it. And so it's very different now. Like when I first got on BookTube, when we were doing owls and all that other stuff, it was much more prevalent, I guess. And you still felt the like weight of it.
Yeah. And it feels so much more like a cash grab now.
Now everything does.
And because like they just announced like the remake, right? Like the movies are fantastic and they're not old. It doesn't need to be remade, but we're remaking it because people will pay for it, right? And so it's not about the art and like what it was. It's just how can we squeeze as much money as possible out of this?
Yeah. When my partner took me to the thing, I was like, I had like a lot of conflicting feelings, and I was like, he did something really nice. He wanted to do something nice for me. Like, we're going to go. And it was a very weird thing for me. And we were going through, and I was just like a lot of like talking about my feelings and going through this thing that was, I guess, a lot of money. I have no no idea what he paid for the tickets, but like it was so lackluster. There was nothing there. Like I kept thinking about the Bridgerton experience, and when I went to that with my friend, it was phenomenal. Like the production value is great. Like you didn't have to pay for everything everywhere. Like you went in, maybe you paid for your booze, but I expect to pay at the bar, you know, but you just had a good time. There was a show. This was like, you're just walking around and like staring at things. And I don't even, just so you can get funneled through to buy more crap and merchandise. And everything just felt so icky from like start to finish. And I wonder if it was always kind of like that, but we had this, you love the books and all the other stuff. And so you didn't notice it. And now it's just so clear.
Yeah.
Like you don't.
I mean, also, but when it was more of a phenomenon, there wasn't as much merch at the time.
Yeah.
It was just people being excited about the midnight premieres of the movies or the midnight release of the book, and then it was really once Universal Studios started making like Hogwarts World or whatever.
Yeah,
because it's that layer of nostalgia that's added onto it. That, you know, the books have been out for so long, but now we just remember them fondly and like want that merchandise now. So. Okay, well, I didn't, you know, it sounds like it's not too unpopular. I think Alyssa kind of gets me, so.
Well, not anymore, because now Harry Potter is so popular to hate on.
Yeah.
And I get it, because the author and her tweets and all of that.
Yeah, I don't hate on it. I just don't understand. I don't connect with it with the hysteria that it kind of evokes.
I think it also goes back to like what you were saying before about like Shatter Me and YA books from like the 2000s. Like things have their moments and you connect with them at certain times, and not everything translates when you're older, like, or when you're in a different place, or even just if you're just literally like in a different mood, like you're not going to maybe have the same connection with something. There are some books, movies, whatever's that keep standing the test of time for people, but not every book is going to do that, and not for everybody. So I think sort of collectively, a lot of people have moved on from something like Harry Potter, maybe like as a new experience. And you're right, like the nostalgia of it is the thing that you're really hanging on to. But then there's also like generations of people that are reading this to their kids because they have that nostalgia and they're passing it on. So perhaps the kids have it, you know, but I don't know if the adults have the same thing.
I will say my daughter absolutely loves it, and she just gets kind of on her own. Like, again, maybe I shouldn't give my kid reign to Netflix. But like she discovered it and I'm like, yeah, but then like part of me is like, but it's like I don't want to trample that love for her.
It's hard. There is this like really
just likes the magic and friends and the settling.
There's like a really nice part of like when you take away all the other things, there's a really nice part of those stories that a lot of people can, and the reason why they connected with it. And then it's just piling on all the other things, and especially when you're a kid, because you're not reading that deeply into stuff. Like you don't see some of the things that we start to see with hindsight and more information and just more insight into who wrote these books.
Absolutely.
Right?
Like my 10-year-old has no idea. She just likes the books and movies.
She's like, yay, wizards. Like,
and it's like awesome, you know. So
and there's something lovely about that.
Yeah.
Just that childlikeness.
It is
forever
such a hard spot.
I think there's a lot of complex feelings around Harry Potter.
Oh yeah,
for a lot of people,
especially those people that have, you know, like a tattoo already.
Oh my god,
yeah.
I don't.
I do. It's not noticeable. I have an owl, and we can make it any owl.
It's any owl.
It's any owl. It's just an owl. Oh God! Now I have to come up with an answer, though. That's the problem. I must have skipped over this question when I was reading them, and I'm not going to steal Roger's answer because I'm pretty sure I know Roger's answer.
Is it Lord of the Rings?
What's funny is the one I think is Roger's answer. I actually love the book, but I also don't disagree. So,
what is my answer?
Babel.
Oh, that would have been a good one. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah.
Because I actually read this book, loved it, gave it 5 stars, but also think that all of the, oh my God, it's so powerful hype is like, yes, but oh my God, it took me so long to read it as well. Like,
R.F. Kuang should be an essayist. She's actually not great at like fiction. I thought Yellowface was her best thing she's written because it's taking out of fantasy, because I feel like she's not good at developing characters. She's good at having like plot. Like she's good at having like plot points that she wants to get to, things she wants to tell you. And so if she wrote essays, I think she would be phenomenal.
I need to read Yellowface because like I liked Poppy War and it kind of dropped it on the last book.
It falls off so hard. I was like,
but I like the very end, but it's just getting to that last book was difficult.
Well,
there are a lot of changes I'd have made as a not writer.
I have a question for you guys. So this question is a book that everyone thinks is really powerful, but you don't connect with. Would anybody answer this with Fourth Wing? Because that's
it's not
arguably that's arguably one of the best-selling books of the year, right? So would anybody say they didn't connect with? I thought it was good, but I don't get the hype around it.
I don't get the hype. I enjoyed myself. Give me some lightning pound. I'm happy. I'm fine. Like
I do plan to read it.
Okay.
But I'm just not that excited. Like I'm not like woo like excited because like I pre-ordered it before I had seen any hype, right? I happened to see it, thought it had cool sprayed edges with dragons, and I'm down. I pre-ordered
dragons. I'm always happy.
Right, there's dragons. I'm good. And then I kind of heard all the hype and all the hype. And I was like, I don't know. I didn't realize it was as much romance as it was. And then my brakes went out in my car. And that book was selling for $200.
Yeah.
And I got my brakes fixed. Will I purchase an ebook at some point? Probably.
I don't have
my brakes needed to be fixed. And that's
from the library.
The audio's on Scribd if you have Scribd.
Like I was like, you mean somebody's paying $200 for this? Mm-hmm. And I bought it for $20? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're gonna pay for it.
I don't get I don't get it. It's one of my answers somewhere on this list later, but I don't get why it has so much hype. I enjoyed myself. I had a good time. I just
marketing team.
Do not understand why people.
There was nothing unique about it.
Nothing.
Yeah, so I don't know why people think it's so
very, very formulaic. It was a good time. Like
4 stars.
Marketing
a lot of other
was
books.
Fantastic. I would like to talk to their marketing people. Like.
It felt like Titanic, like when we all went crazy about Titanic, and then like a couple years later, we were like, "Why did we go? This thing was 3 hours long." Like that's.
And we knew the boat was gonna sink.
Like, what were we doing?
And there was definitely space for 2 people on that door.
Totally.
I think Fourth Wing is Titanic, but
Fourth Wing is. Just never let go.
Just never let go. Hold on to that dragon, just like she held on to Jack.
Is it your turn now, Alyssa?
I guess it's my turn, but I have Litfic girly time. So there's a book called Demon Copperhead that won the Pulitzer this year. It actually tied with another book that I think was better, but so the Booker came out, which is supposed to be like awarded to the best literature. The best book in literature is supposed to be longlisted for it. It is not on that list. And the amount of people on the internet who lost their ever-loving mind over the fact that Demon Copperhead wasn't longlisted, it just boggles my mind because it's a retelling of David Copperfield and it's not even that good. It's really not good at all. Like it's fine. It had a moment. I don't think anyone's going to think about it in a couple years. Like I don't know why everybody's so like butthurt over this. It doesn't make any sense. And the audiobook is really bad. Like it sounds like their southern accent is all like howdy. This is how people talk. It's like too overdone to be like, oh, this because it's about a young boy and it talks about like the opioid epidemic and it's supposed to be like really tragic and moving and sad. And I don't know if I'm too broken to have noticed that it's tragic and moving and sad, but like I think you should just read Empire of Pain if you want to like, or is that what it's called? This about the Sackler family who like started selling like opioids to the masses. It's just better. It's more moving, I think, than this book, and it's nonfiction. But I just really hate David. I just hate Demon Copperhead. I don't know what the book is called. I hate Demon Copperhead. It's so bad. It's too long. It's awful. I'm gonna shut up.
It's just too long.
Okay, Sophia.
Well, the one I'm going to talk about, I'll mention in a minute, but I do just want to cop to the fact that I did write Lord of the Rings on my list of potential answers for this one because I don't understand.
Just to see Roger.
It's just like, I'm sorry, Roger. I'm so sorry. I tried so many times to read it. I really, really wanted. I think part of it is the fact that when I was growing up, my mum made us watch those films like basically every weekend for years. So I was just so sick of the story that I was just like, I don't care. Please.
I'm gonna come hang out with your mom.
Just throw the ring away and move on with your lives. Can we not? But the one I'm going to actually mention properly is Red Rising, because similarly,
I'm so scared to read that in case I hate it.
Well, I've tried to read it twice as well, and like, I'm not going to say what, but there's a scene really near the beginning that people get so upset over, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I just don't care.
I've only read the first book.
I get why that would be traumatic to the characters, but it's not traumatic to me. You want trauma? Read Robin Hood, not Red Rising.
I don't disagree with you. I've only read the first book, and it was okay. But yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, and it's like it's too early on to even for me to give.
That can be our next buddy read, Alyssa, because I haven't read it either.
Yeah, because so many of my friends are just like so rabidly into that series that like I'm terrified that I'm going to have like no friends at the end of it if I don't like it.
Well, and that's the one. It's described as Hunger Games in space, right? Yeah, I don't
see the vibes, but
I don't like books set in space. Like I don't really like sci-fi, so like that's where I'm like I'm.
No,
it doesn't feel like sci-fi.
Space,
like
so
any
far as it's
sci-fi?
set on Mars.
Yeah.
But like there's different kind of space. There's like space where you're like interstellar, like you're moving around, and then there's space where you're like basically just like in space, but space is you standing on a planet, and so like it feels like anywhere else, and just every so often they're like, you're in space.
This is Mars.
And you're like, okay,
this is Mars. Oh wait.
Yeah.
That's Red Rising.
And then there's Dune.
Dune should all be all of our answers for this.
Like start over. We're just gonna write Dune.
Start over. All of us say Dune.
Every single question.
Every single answer is Dune.
Just no.
For me, this one is House of Sky and Breath. I don't understand why people were losing their minds. Like, oh my God, the end. And I'm like, or people shouting about Hunt and Bryce, who have like the worst, most like juvenile chemistry ever. The sex scenes are terrible. It sounds like a 13-year-old boy wrote
about
it.
Shitting on romanticy, okay? Leave it alone. It's fine.
Oh no, I'm going to take Roger's side on this, and I love romanticy and romance.
In House of Earth and Blood,
there was some cool
plot, there were some characters and stuff.
So everything is coming together. The worlds are all colliding.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it is.
Oh my! I have this book. I have this as another answer. So I'm like trying not to like give all my answer, but no, it's not. It's so bad. It's the worst book I've ever read.
Like I've bold statement.
Oh yeah,
I DNF'd it.
I
got to like maybe chapter 2, and I was like, no, I'm done.
I've got the next one on
I did not read the first book.
The first book is pretty good. It takes like 200 pages, I think, for most people to get into it. But
yeah,
the first book I really like because it's like a mystery
of any. I haven't made it past a book 1 of any Sarah J. Maas books.
Yeah, but see, Alyssa, if I was expecting more of book 1 and like an expanding of the world, but instead I got like juvenile teenage boy horny speak, you can see where the disconnect was.
Maybe I like teenage boy horny speak. I don't know.
But you need to do some soul searching for that, because that's called.
I needed to do some soul searching for a while. I think there's a lot of reasons.
in my head.
There's an incongruity here because you also like testicles being stapled to walls.
Complex human being, okay?
Complex person.
Okay, Miss Jack, what's the character you don't get the hype for?
The many moods of Alyssa.
Christian Grey from 50 Shades of Grey. I don't get the hype for because I think that okay, you take the steamy stuff aside, which was really tough to do for 50 Shades of Grey. But like
then you have nothing left of the book.
There's nothing.
There's like 5 pages left.
I know.
Just them staring at each other.
It's his controlling nature that I think everybody goes crazy about. because he's rich. I think if he was in middle management in like a Fortune 500 company and he was telling her what she could and could not wear, what her birth control should be, what she does with her lady parts, like what bars she can go to. I think if he wasn't rich and like taking her in a helicopter, people would be like, feminism, right? And so I don't get the hype for Christian Grey. I don't think he's like an attractive character. So
I don't think feminism works when you talk about any alpha male romances, especially when you get into the billionaire alpha male romances.
They
just
check it at the door.
Feminism sits somewhere else.
He's a billionaire.
Like,
but it's because he's a billionaire that it's okay.
Now, I don't disagree with you, but I do think that when you're talking about like when people who read and enjoy like alpha male romances, I do enjoy alpha male romances. I think you enjoy them because they're in this like little bucket of fantasy that would not work in reality. Because as soon as it goes into reality, you're like, no, that's abuse. Sit down. I think the problem.
I just wish it wasn't. I just wish it wasn't like one of the most popular forms of romance that seems to have trickled down into YA, where a lot of YA romances have similar facets of the alpha male bullshit that I just do not.
Well, what I was going to say is I think when you have this being read by younger people, I think that becomes a problem, because then you start to have an expectation of certain things. And like when you're an old ass lady, like you understand the difference between fantasy and reality, right? Like you know what you would tolerate in real life and what you can like be like, oh, that would be fun. Like, you know, but when you're like younger, you don't have that. Then you start setting expectations. And then I think that can set up some problematic potential things in the future.
That's fair. And I am a dark romance reader. I like the possessive male.
Because you like Priest or whatever, didn't you?
I hated Priest, but
I hated Priest.
I loved book 2.
Okay.
But with Christian Grey, the question is, what is a character you don't get the hype for?
Mm-hmm.
So I like the genre. I don't get the hype for Christian Grey as being this like sex god, because I just.
Well, he's also very like one-dimensional. His entire thing is like possessive sex.
Yeah.
Dom.
Yeah.
It's all he's got.
Yeah. And I think just because I've read so much dark romance and the really spicy stuff that I'm like, that is what you guys are losing your minds over. So yeah, that's my answer. Christian Grey, overhyped.
He's also fairly vanilla if you get too like dark. Like if you go too far into it, he's actually fairly vanilla in comparison to some of these other guys.
It's like a gateway. It's a gateway into the dark.
It's a gateway bug. It is a gateway bug. Suddenly you're in Den of Vipers and there's knife play and you're like, what? So,
yep.
Okay, Jessie.
Oh god. So I'm gonna kind of continue the trend. Is it Resand? I've only read the first book because I have yet to make it past a first book. You
can't speak about him until you read book 2.
I know,
you have to read book 2.
I think also the hype kind of kills it for me. I also am not personally a fan of the alpha male trope in general. I want the cinnamon roll trope to be like, that is my like go-to. But like, it's not my jam.
Reality cinnamon roll, fantasy alcohol. That's me.
But can't I have my fantasy cinnamon roll? Like, we don't have enough of those in real life.
You can have your fantasy cinnamon roll.
I feel like we don't have enough of those in real life in general, so it might be a fantasy. But I don't know, just like everyone, the whole like the Bat Boy thing. Like, I think it's just the hype that kills.
First of all, Azrael is the one I'm waiting for, because I like all the shadow play. I'm thinking about what dark romance writers can do with like somebody who could control shadows and sex play. Like, I feel like you could have some real fun with that. She's not going to do it, but I feel like you could have some fun with that. But wait, we're going to go too far into this.
I don't know. It's not the Squeak live show.
Right?
We still need to read what is it? Morning Glory Farm.
Morning Glory Milking Farm.
Oh my God. I have a special edition of that.
The wrong live show.
Okay, Alyssa, what's a character you don't get the hype for?
I don't get the hype for the Darkling and Shadow and Bone. Everybody was talking about it. Like, this was gonna be, I guess maybe because I was expecting like a Resand or like some sexy like sex god thing, and I was just like, you're just like a broody boy. Like, go away. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why everybody was like, oh, is she gonna choose him? No,
I mean,
she was-
Shadowbone firmly sits in its YA lane
It's
with
so
the
fit-
romance, whereas
I-
I don't understand how ACOTAR was ever marketed as YA.
it should never have been marketed that way. But I think the problem is that like I didn't read Shadow and Bone like when it first came out. I read Shadow and Bone
Yeah.
after reading other things, and so then I think there's a lot of like older adult like ladies, like not like old ladies, but like older adults that read Shadow and Bone and maybe have like a more adult looking back on a book they read when they were younger. And so I was expecting this like something, I was expecting something else. Like I wasn't just expecting like a broody boy and another guy and like a love triangle. I wasn't expecting that. I wanted like, even if there wasn't, adult, right? Still YA. I wanted more like tension maybe. And I just don't get it. He's just a morally gray little villain guy. Like he's fine.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, Sophia.
Mine is the one that hurts people. So I'm sorry if I hurt you. Some of you already know who this is. Sazed.
I have to buy.
Oh, like, why
He's
do
from
people
the
get
Miss
so,
Warren,
like,
Bryce
oh my
Brandon.
God,
Oh.
no.
I only read the first one. I don't
Like
care.
one of my
You know me
favorite
and Brandy
characters
Sandy.
in all of literature. Like the power and knowledge, and then the kindness and the you're
Because
breaking
Sazed's
my
the one who
heart.
stores like memories in his bracelets and stuff, and talks about like tries to proselytize all the random religions.
It's like,
Like,
yeah,
I'm not hurt. I'm
Sophia
fine.
knows
We
this.
can still be friends.
for me, he's side character material, and people give him so much main character energy, and I'm just like, no, I'm sorry.
I can see that point. In my mind, he's more of a side character, so I might agree with you there. But I think he's fantastic. Like I think in my yearly rankings video, like I do like an award show every year, and so I have like best supporting character, and I think I put Sazed as my number one because I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, people
I like
love
Sazed, but I always
actually have like
people
content.
hate me for
I don't
saying
know
that I
what I
hate
do on the
Tyndall.
internet.
People always get
Tyndall
mad when I'm like,
to me as well.
I hate Tyndall. I don't like her dynamic with Sazed. I don't like her dynamic with anybody. People
True.
get mad.
Yeah, I don't like her either.
I agree with
though.
that. Yeah.
I love Sazed.
Lots of
But
people
yeah.
do.
Well, you're
But
not.
it's also so surprising because Sophia is such a
Unpopular
Sandy
opinion.
stan.
Right.
Yeah.
I also
Well-
love Wayne though, so
I do too. Okay, so Sophia, you are not canceled for that answer, but I'm personally offended.
She's disappointed.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I knew it was coming.
I've made peace with the fact that mine is an unpopular opinion here. Like most people love Sazed, and I'm just like over here, like okay, fine, you do that.
Okay,
I'm gonna be over here loving like Elland or something.
I like him too. Yeah. Okay.
For me, it'd have to be Randall Thor. I don't understand how he's the main character of the Wheel of Time. He's so boring, so one-dimensional. You really never get that interesting stuff from him until maybe book 14. I think I started to like him a little bit more, but that's a big ask for me to be through like 15,000 pages.
That's a lot of book.
And they're not short books either. They're all like 600, 700 pages.
I don't know if you guys are hyping me up for this purchase.
Longer and longer.
Ugh.
He has the same problem that Sarah J. Maas has, which is that you have enough popularity that nobody edits you, and you need someone to edit you.
Well, his wife was his editor, so
That also makes it worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also I don't
a book or
understand how
series-
like yeah, it's just too much.
What's the series that everybody wants an adaptation for that you do not?
what is that?
Oh, the blade itself,
Oh,
first law.
I don't disagree. People are so excited for the random like spin-off one that he's getting because he's getting one of his like standalones adapted, right?
Oh,
I don't
didn't
think
know.
it's gonna be a very interesting movie, but whatever.
Yeah. Again, like most
It
of these
doesn't
books.
read very cinematic, so I don't know why.
Yeah, for me, and most of these books I'm talking about for my unpopular opinions, it's not that I hate them, except for House of Sky and Breath. Like they're all like 3 stars. It's just the hype for it I don't understand. And so with the First Law trilogy, not everybody, I frequently hear people saying how they'd love to see this adapted, and I'm like, why? Who said it earlier? I think it was Alyssa. there are so many other ways you could be disappointed in life. You really want it to be this series because the books, there was some great characters I loved. The writing was fantastic. The tone blew my mind. There was a lot to it I liked, but it's so pointless. And I don't know how we can call this fantasy because the magic was such a small sliver. Like the magic that's there, if you were to just remove it from the story, the plot doesn't change at all. It's completely the same without magic. And so I'm like, you're just going to be disappointed. Like it, I don't know. I don't see it as a movie at all. So that's my answer. But it was a 3-star. It was a 3-star. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Jesse.
Unless it's animated, I don't want to see any Cosmere.
Oh.
No. Because
animated isn't going to happen.
I don't see it being done well. Like, there's so many elements to it. It's like, are they really going to have a big enough budget to have really good effects?
But
even just kickstart it, and he'll get a big.
Just kickstart it. That you would get more budget than having like Netflix pay for it. But I don't know. There's something about it that it's like, maybe it's because I do love it so much, and I'm like, it seems like it would be hard to adapt, and there is so much. Like, are we just doing Mistborn? Are we just doing Era 1? Are we going to do whole Cosmere? Like 17 million episodes of a show later. Like,
if you did it as an anime, I think it would work better. You have so much material. Yes. Anything that has like so much material, it should be animated. You can't do live action. People are going to leave.
He's not going to be doing it animated because he feels like there's not enough mass appeal. And unfortunately, he is right that there isn't enough mass appeal with animated films or TV shows. That he thinks that it wouldn't.
I mean, I think everyone who watches anime would argue against that. But
I agree. I think anime is amazing, but there are a lot of people, my mum included, who will just not watch a film if it's animated. Like,
or they think it's for kids.
I don't know.
Automatically, it's like, oh, it's animated, so it's a kids movie.
Yeah, maybe it's that. I don't know, but some people just will outright refuse to watch things that are animated.
That's wild.
It's so weird to me.
In a world where One Piece exists. Bajillion episodes.
I mean, how many of us grew up with The Simpsons, and you think that like you can't just have animation for adults?
But you're talking about mass appeal, right? If you're talking about mass appeal, it's a very niche audience. I would say, like, I like Disney movies, so I like animated movies, but I would not take a Cosmere animated series seriously because you lose you gain a lot with the artistic abilities for sure, but you lose that magic of the acting and the reactions. And if there was a really good portrayal of a character or a situation, you kind of lose that with the animated. So I would probably be one that would not be intrigued by an animated adaptation of it.
No, but I feel like when you have like magic systems and things, you can do it without making it cheesy in animation. I feel like you can end up being really dated or cheesy when you do it live action.
How can animation not turn cheesy though? Like, it doesn't always age well. Yeah, I don't know. I think it
depends on the style of animation too. Like if they have an anime style animation.
Yeah.
That's like that's thematically where my head goes is like anime Crunchyroll style, like amazing animation.
I mean, imagine Yumi as an anime. Amazing.
I mean, obviously needs to happen. But live action, I don't know. I just feel like it gets messed up too much. And I feel like it's just a big ask.
There's a lot of material there.
Yeah.
Okay, Alyssa.
I don't think that ACOTAR should be made into any sort of adaptation. I feel like any books like that where you have like a cult following that are end up being personal, like no one's going to be happy. It's going to end up being cheesy. Everyone's going to be disappointed. It's a waste of money and it's a cash grab. Don't do it.
Agree.
Agree.
I mean, that kind of happened with like the Shadowhunters.
Literally, my answer is anything by Cassandra Clare.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to happen. It's been done before badly.
It failed. It failed
terribly. Twice.
No
I didn't
more.
mind the
That's-
CW show. I watched the CW show and I liked it better than the book.
I do think
Okay, same,
sometimes when you
Roger.
make TV shows, that's better because you can stick closer to the text, and you can, and so you, it's easier to also tolerate maybe in like 35 to 40-minute chunks
Especially
than
for
it is.
City of Bones and for like the first whatever Mortal Instruments, because of the fake incest trope, the show didn't lean into it as hard as the books do, and you don't spend as long with it because it's just like a couple episodes. So like in an hour,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, that was a lie.
You can
Whereas
go
if you're
back to
reading
like
the
other
books-
plot points. Yeah. Other things.
Well, thanks for spoiling that for me.
You really wanted to know that she thinks somebody's her brother, but I
Well,
love
yeah.
him.
Well,
He
it is on my
loves it.
September. It's on my September TBR, so I haven't read it yet. So
Cassie Clare loves incest, just so you know.
okay, well,
Well, I was particularly thinking with Cassie Clare, like I think a lot of people would like the, what's it called? The dark, which one? The
Oh,
Clockwork.
the Dark Artifice.
The
no.
immortal. No, the dark.
The one with like
the infernal devices.
Inferior.
Infernal Devices, that's
The
it.
one
yeah.
that's like Victoriana. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Or
think
Edwardian or
people
whatever.
really want that, and I'm just like, do you know what? Just go and watch Pride and Prejudice, the 1995 version.
Yes.
Roger.
Roger's like, I'd watch it.
I would watch. We've already established that I am.
Roger will
unpopular.
watch
I will watch
anything.
basically anything.
I mean, I'm planning to watch the One Piece adaptation, so I have
Oh,
zero.
I'm planning to watch it just to mess with my friend at work because she's obsessed with One Piece, and I refuse.
Did you
to watch it
answer,
'cause I hate
Roger?
Roger, you didn't answer.
Well,
A
my
book or-
answer was I don't know. I'd watch anything. I
Oh.
don't care. I'll watch it.
Cop out.
Okay. So
Okay.
you would even watch an adaptation of the Crescent City series?
Probably because I liked book one.
Oh, okay. So this is my answer. So a book or series you think people have a bias toward and don't really love it. I'm going to say that as much as they claim.
I
So
think
I
you're,
love.
you're lying.
Okay, so let me explain.
You're wrong.
So I loved book one. This is one of my favorite books
I've
that
read
I've.
it twice, and I will be reading it a third time when the third book comes out.
So book one of my favorite books I've ever read. I loved it. I like devoured this thing in like 2 days. I stayed up till 2 a.m. reading it. I was bawling. Loved it. Book two was the worst thing I've ever read. I think I felt like when I finished it, I felt like it was a.
Those
Hold
are,
on, hold
those
on,
are
hold
big
on.
words.
Hold on one
Worst thing
second.
you
Hold on
ever
one
read.
second. I felt like Sarah J. Maas. I thought it was a joke. I thought she was like, I'm just going to put crap on a page and it will sell. Like, I think it was a joke to her readers. And so when I finished it, I was like, this isn't even the same, because I love ACOTAR series. Love it. I'm reading Throne of Glass now. I'm on the fence. And then I loved book one. And so when I read this, I was like, she can't be serious. And so I feel like people just love it because it says Sarah J. Maas. It's so poorly written. Like Roger was saying, the poor.
None of her books are well written. What are you looking for?
Like bleeding and dying on the floor, and they're making like sexual innuendos to each other. Like, I'm gonna have you on your back later too, but don't bump. And it's like, this is so not serious. So I could not believe, and everything was pointless. I was mad.
Everything was pointless, she said. Everything.
And
Yes,
so
Alyssa, because fucking Bryce was lying the whole time for no reason, just to have like tension and a dramatic reveal later. Let's put each other in life and death situations just because I don't trust you to take my side. Like fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. Like I hated everything about it, and I feel
personally attacked.
Because Sarah J. Maas has gotten so big that I feel like everything she does is a cash grab. And that's why you see book 3, how they're doing different bonus chapters at like 5 different stores, because everything is a cash grab. She's taking advantage of her fandom, and it's not about literature anymore. It's not about a good experience. It's not about.
I would never put
cohesive
Sarah
plot.
J. Maas in literature in the same.
I know. She should be proud of what she's putting together, but she just knows she puts crap on the paper and people will buy it. Like horrible, but I would call myself a fan because I like her other books, but I think she's gotten so big that it's just a cash grab. So
that I can't disagree with that.
Okay, well, we'll stop
Oh,
kicking Alyssa while she's down. We'll move on to Jesse.
2 hours sleep. She's had a rough couple shifts, and you're just like, I'm just gonna keep shitting
I
on you.
know. Alyssa canceled me, but Jesse's on my side.
I mean,
and-
I don't agree. I don't disagree. Sorry, it's.
I mean, that's how we met each other, right, Jack? From our House of Sky and Breath reviews.
yeah, that's how we bonded. Is because it was the algorithm realizes that like it. I have so much. I could make a whole rant video just on this because I
Do it, and I will.
Do it.
I will improve your engagement by just
You will
shouting underneath
dislike
it.
Yes. Hey, engagement's engagement, right?
That's
Yeah.
what I say every time I get a Mein Kampf comment. Go ahead. YouTube don't care.
We keep that algorithm up.
You're still not going. You're replying to yourself. Go ahead.
Go for it. It's just bumping it up in that ad revenue a little bit, just a tiny bit. Oh God.
Yes,
So I can't
20 cents
disagree.
I make a month. Yeah.
I know, right? But I mean, a lot of those authors that have gotten like so big, like Cassandra Clare, like we were just saying, like it's so massive. Like,
Yeah,
and
but
the
you don't
books
hear
have
anybody
gotten-
saying that about The Last Hours. The Last Hours, people are eating that crap up. There's not like the counter side where people are like, she
It's
doesn't get
too-
edited by anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
It
no,
is
but
very.
that last book, Chain of Thorns, way too long.
That's
Way,
what
I haven't read the last
way
one.
too long.
I
Mhm.
looked at it. I'm like, does she have Sanderson's editor? Like,
You mean
what
none?
is going on?
Well, and that's a good example. People might have a bias towards that author now, you know, and that's what the question is, right? So I think people have a Sarah J. Maas bias and maybe a Cassandra Clare. I haven't read her at all, so I don't really know. But
And I like
yeah,
the
it's a
Sanders
bias.
books minus the first 6.
That's a-
I made the mistake of starting like not in the Chain of Thorns ones. What was the one right before that?
Oh, the Lady
The
Midnight
Infernal
one.
Devices.
Yeah, the Lady Midnight. I
Well-
made the mistake of starting there and then going
Oh,
back.
So that's a weird place to
That's a
start.
weird
yeah,
place to
no.
jump in, and it just gets
Mhm.
worse as you go back. And it's really hard to keep going. So I think I read like
Right?
Yeah, because
City of
people like the
Bones.
Dark Artifices, but then that comes after Mortal Instruments and relies on you having some information from Mortal Instruments.
A lot of information.
Yeah, but I wasn't happy. I was happy with those. I was happy with like Toriana ones. Those were fine. And then I got to City of Bones and I was like, no.
Absolutely not.
so then, Alyssa, what would you recommend? Should I start with Mortal Instruments or should I start
I
with
think you
Infernal
should
Devices?
read them in the correct order, which is to start from City of Bones. Do not
Agreed.
read them
Okay.
ass backwards like I did.
I would
Well,
read them in
there's a
publication
publication.
order.
There's publication or there's chronological, right?
Publication.
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 Okay.
Publication will help you because there's information that you get in. Otherwise, Infernal Devices and the last 3 books of Mortal Instruments start to spoil each other.
They
Yeah.
alternate. So it's like you read one and then the other and then one and then the other. Because it's like she would really, it's weird.
Okay, so I'll do
I did
publication
not
order.
read it like that, but
I can
But
see
I
why that
also-
would have been beneficial because I've
Yeah.
lost a lot of the information because I didn't remember anymore.
same. Well, I was the same, but it had been so long since I read the other ones.
Yeah.
But like, as far as we had kind of mentioned it before, but like R.F. Kuang, and I love R.F. Kuang, but it's like anything that this woman puts out, people are going to read her grocery list.
Mhm.
And it's somebody that loved Babel. I can still see like where it fell and like why it's not.
Her fans
know,
they
the
have a
end all
hard
be
time
all-
with the critiquing.
Yeah, they
Even when
really
you like it.
do. It's like,
Which is
okay, well,
funny.
I loved it, but there's things I don't disagree with Roger about, but it's like you say one bad thing and everyone attacks you. And it's like, okay, I really
Mhm.
liked Poppy War until the last book. And like I haven't read Yellowface yet, but it's like she can put out anything and it's like it's perfect, it's amazing, it's great. And if you hate it,
It's
You
not
are
perfect or
first
amazing.
person in the world, like people will come for you
Yeah.
if you say negative things about it. And it's like, well, I'm not saying bad things about her as a person. She seems real cool. I just don't like this book or I don't like this aspect of the book. And I liked the whole book. And people just, it's like, do
They're
you
not-
really love it that much? Or are you just
Well, people
wanting-
just have such a hard time separating the things that they like from their personal identity. It's the same reason why you have the Swifties on the internet that feel like they have to go stand somebody. Like, she doesn't know who you are. She doesn't need your defense. She's fine. Release
She's
yourself
good.
from this.
Well, and you can
R.F.
still
Kuang
critique.
is doing A-okay. You don't need to
She's
be like,
doing
how
great.
dare you say anything about Queen Kong? It's like, okay, girl, please.
right?
Well, and Jesse, I'll be really curious about your review on Yellowface, because I feel like that whole book is a commentary on that exact subject, the bookish community.
People really like Yellowface. Even people who don't like other Kwong stuff. I feel like even Elle, she didn't really like Poppy War, didn't finish it. Was
I
kind
don't
of
think she's
lukewarm
a
on
fantasy
Babel.
writer. I don't think she can develop characters the way you need to develop characters to have
Or
a
the
really
magic system.
Yeah,
Like
to have
the
a
magic
really
system is Babel is a
good,
joke.
well-rounded.
Just an allegory.
Well,
There's
everything
magic.
for Babel is just for her to like talk about her talking points, and that's
Mm.
fine. And I found her talking points interesting, which is why I liked Babel. It has nothing to do with the actual fantasy world of the story,
Mhm.
and so that made it really hard. Like when dramatic things are kind of happening at the end for me to care. Like the fact that like even Jess like, I'm crying. Why are you crying, Jess? I don't understand why you're crying. Did you get that? Like I didn't get that invested in any of the characters because I just don't feel like they're fleshed out
Yeah.
enough for me to cry over you. Like, what is it sad? Sure, it's sad, but
You are gonna
No.
love Robin Hobb, girl. You just need to drop your TBR and start Assassin's Apprentice because everything you talk about, she has really nice writing, which you're gonna appreciate. She has uber trauma. She does flesh out the characters, even though you sometimes don't like them because they're stupid and asinine. They do feel realistic. You're gonna love it. Just go read it.
I can't wait for Alyssa's review on Robin Hobb. I think that'll be really cool.
I'll be
So
like,
Jessica,
guys,
my Yellowface
I'm in
review.
love.
Right?
Yeah, and then, yeah.
But no, Yellowface, I think, is somebody did point out some things for Yellowface that I didn't notice while I was reading it. But I guess there's some like continuity issues with like timeline. And I don't know if that's because our narrator is so unreliable or if it's because nobody actually like fact checked her because she's RF Kwong.
I think that Bethany's review of, I haven't read Yellowface, but Bethany's review of it was really interesting from B2B Bookish Bethany.
I haven't watched that one.
I liked it, but I saw another video afterwards and they made a good point of how much do we love this book because we are part of this bookish world and we understand, like it's more impactful to us when we see the dark underbelly of the publishing industry and how social media impacts reviews and authors. Like I think that means more to us than just some average Joe off the street, but I feel like this book was written for us. So
That's what I found interesting about Bethany's review is that those are the reasons why she doesn't connect with the book.
Oh, interesting.
So much in the publishing.
Well, I do think that I really enjoyed it. Like totally 5-star. I stand by my stance on it when I read it. But like with hindsight and talking to other people, I can see certain things. Like I feel like it maybe could have been more hard hitting. Like now looking at it, you're like maybe if she wasn't such a darling of publishing and she was maybe more of like a rebel sort of outsider, she maybe would have had a more scathing review. It would have been harder hitting. But I thought it was really interesting because I haven't really read anybody being that open about the problems in publishing to that extent.
Well, and it's a satire, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it would change the tone of the whole book if you made it more of a scathing review. So
yeah. But maybe
Whose
this will
turn
open
is
the
it?
door to more people. I think it's me. Is it me?
Yeah, it's you.
Do I remember? What am I doing? The last one, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that people love Fourth Wing as much as they say they love Fourth Wing. I think that people are just wrapped up in the hype because I do not understand why it exists. I think that everybody is like pretty cover, stenciled edges. Everybody's talking about it. Oh my God, it's sold out everywhere. Oh my God, I need this book. It's to be the best thing ever. It is just your like run of the mill romantasy, dragons, sex.
Divergent with dragons.
It's not even the best one. There's
No,
better
it's
romantic
it's
stuff.
literally.
I wonder if that's exactly it. It's a lot of people's discovery of the romantasy genre, and it's like, yes, you're right. Romantasy is great. This
Maybe.
is not necessarily the best one.
Yeah.
But
I will say that I do like the representation in it though of like chronic pain and illness. I liked that element of like, I love any story that's an underdog that busts their ass and good things happen to them.
And she wasn't like the weird, like meek person. She used her brains. She was a little irritating sometimes.
She was intelligent. Yeah.
But, you know, I was like, you could sit by the pool and read this. This was fine. I had a good time. I enjoyed
I
myself.
just couldn't get past the parapet scene where it was like, why is somebody trying to kill you? Wait, don't you need people for this war? Like, it just, the whole plot was asinine. I'm like, why does your mom hate you so much that you can't just go be a scholar? Who gives a, like, I don't understand. Like, nothing was like, I was like, every time I think about anything for 2 seconds.
There's no real solid world building. Like, everything was like just enough to hang this romance on. And that's all it needed. And
I didn't make it to the romance because I couldn't get past the fact that I was like, I don't understand why any of this is a thing.
Yeah, but it was a good balance. Like for me, it was a good balance with the romance because it felt more like a subplot, you know, because there's so much going on with the dragons and the studies and the classes, like that academic element.
I feel like you'd love the dragons, though, Roger.
I think he would too.
There's a little baby dragon
with their sarcasm. Yeah. I think
I got to chapter 3 and I was like, okay, never mind. I was reading the preview chapters on Amazon trying to decide if I wanted to buy it or not because the library, it was like several months old, obviously, because everybody and their grandmother and their estranged cousin wants to read it.
You're not wrong.
I don't think it's worth like, you know, $200 or like
right
or like I don't get it.
Well, I don't think there's a single book that's worth $200. I'll say that.
Absolutely not.
I don't know. I have my beautiful replica of the Book of Shadows from Charmed, and that was a lot more than $200.
I mean,
I need you to send me a picture of that.
I know. I need you to send me a link where I can purchase this.
Because I
He's like, wait, I have it with me always.
I do. I do. I have it right next to me.
We're all like, I need the link to this.
Oh
okay.
my god,
pretty.
But that's like hand-bound,
wow.
though. Yeah, that's worth $200 because that's called
this was more
artistry.
Like probably close to $1,200.
But we're talking about something that like Simon and Schuster would publish.
We're talking about some dragon stencils.
Really, I think I have a copy that I because I did enjoy it, and I'm gonna read the next one because I just enjoy it, and like I'm not ravenous about it. It's fine.
But I do love the trend of books being published much closer together because the sequel's coming out in like November or something.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like you could have Fourth Wing, or you could have these.
Yeah.
I know which ones I'd rather have.
I know what I'm picking.
Yeah.
Although you mentioned something, Roger, and I haven't read Fourth Wing, but I've seen it in a few books. Like one stands out, and it's Blood Scion, where it's like we're recruiting all these people for this war, but we're killing 90% of them before they even get there.
But we desperately need people.
We're
conscripting people into our army to kill them, but we need people.
But why are we killing them? Just like if you're going to kill them, just send them to the front lines. Like, and
especially Fourth Wing because they don't even get a chance. You don't even know who they are or if they're good at something else. You're just like, oh, you wanted to be a dragon rider? Sorry, you're too stupid and you fell off the parapet. Deuces. Like they just
did my headphones die? They did. No, but I think that some of Fourth Wing is that there's other stuff going on, and that's part of why people are being murdered. And I think there's an idea of like exclusivity and like if you can't make it through this, you're not going to make it through what's coming, kind of thing. Like it's kind of like when the
but they don't test everybody. If you wanted to be a scholar, if you wanted to be in any other group, that's totally fine. But if you want to be a dragon rider and you can't cross this parapet, you're worth nothing to us, and you should.
There's only so many dragons; like they're limited. So they're just trying to get the strongest of the people to pair with the
limited. You also have to be strong enough to man the dragon. Why
can't you just put a net at the bottom and put them in a different part?
Because they bond. Because they bond, and they have this telepathic stuff going on.
No. I'm talking before that. I'm talking about
with the parapet. Net. I thought you meant in a net under the dragon. I was like, this is not a cargo ship.
No, in the very beginning, when you're trying to cross in the rainstorm with the people chasing you, trying to murder you for unknown reasons, just because they decide they don't like the look of your face.
Well, isn't that life?
Piece?
Don't people just chase you because they don't like the
that piece where you haven't even joined any group yet, but they still need people in this army. They're letting just people die because they chose the wrong option.
Well, Roger, if you're going to bring logic into this, I just can't speak to you.
That's why I couldn't get past the preview chapters of Fourth Wing.
Look, okay, you needed more. You need more background to understand the complexities that are Fourth Wing.
This is about to become a super fan now after defending this book.
I just
Yeah,
didn't
I know, it's
understand. It's okay.
You
Okay,
didn't
Sophia, what's your answer?
understand, Roger. You gotta give it time.
I feel like I wrote down 3 potential options here. I feel like they almost sum up this entire video.
Perfect.
So I wrote Sarah J. Maas, 50 Shades of Grey, and Wheel of Time.
This is why we're friends.
Okay, I'm not mad at you anymore. I'm not mad at you anymore.
But I feel like all of your answers are correct for either way. I don't know that people love it or hate it as much as they say, because those are big enough that people are just counterculture and want to hate it because it's popular.
Yeah,
and there's people who love it just because they get caught up in the hype.
Exactly.
I feel like we haven't come up with Twilight enough on this, and I feel like
that was my answer.
That has to say, someone has to have Twilight.
The people hate it just because it's popular to hate. That they probably haven't even read it, and they're just like, bleh. It's why I don't totally hate on Fourth Wing because I didn't read it.
It was.
I had a great time.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
I had a great time reading.
Loved it.
Here's the thing.
Like the movies.
We were kind of making fun of like the fandoms, right? And people, because the question is, people have a bias towards it, but they probably don't love it as much as they claim. I think, and that could go the reverse. They hate it just because there's a fandom and hype. I love that people just get so excited, and it's kind of like a community around any book, right? Like I don't have to like it. It's kind of this, you feel included, and it's kind of fun. So I think the culture around certain books does add a whole element to it. So Fourth Wing, I rated it 4 stars because I thought it was good. I don't see that hype, but I love that people are so excited about a book. I love that people are enthusiastic about reading, that they got something out of it, that they were moved, that they're talking to each other about it, having, different theories, different artwork. The art that comes from these books is incredible. Like I love the culture of these fandoms. Just as long as
I just don't like it when they take it too far. Because they take it too far usually, and they're like, how dare you not like this? You are lesser because you don't like this thing that I love, and my whole identity is wrapped up in this.
Yeah, you have to allow critiques, right? Because I think we can all love a book, but recognize there are some points. It's just, hey, these other things overshadowed it for me that I still am a super fan. But like, I like the fandoms. Like
That's one great thing about the Wheel of Time fandom is they all acknowledge the books like 7 through 10, aka the infamous slog, are not the best.
Yeah.
It's very rare that you'll find a Wheel of Time fan person that's like, how dare you say that there's a slog? They're like, no, we know.
Yep.
We admit that.
But those have been out for a really long time too. So I think that
not that long.
A lot longer than like
Twilight. They started getting published in like the 90s. And then I think they probably ended. When did Brandon Sanderson finish them? Like 2010? 2015?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's a lot more recent than I think I realized as well.
I mean, it's more recent than you realize, but it's not Twilight. It's not Hunger Games.
Twilight's older. Twilight's older than the last books of the Wheel of Time.
Oh, it's not older than the series, though.
Book 12 was 2009.
Which is right around when Twilight was peak, right? I feel like it was when I was in high school. I don't really remember anymore.
Twilight was like early 2000s.
I think Twilight was like 2006-ish.
I'm going to say 2006, 2007, yeah.
In Twilight, like, again, the hype is, again, because it's something that was really popular among teenage girls, and we always have to shit on what teenage girls like. But it kind of hit the nail on the head of something that's big in... I hope I don't trigger Roger by saying this. I'm trying to think.
Trigger Roger.
Something that I think is big in the YA, not genre, as Jesse said, it's not a genre, but in YA books, and that's like, nobody understands me, I'm all alone, and that's what Twilight does with Bella. It's like, I'm just this, I'm not like other girls. I'm not like other girls, and I'm different.
Twilight started that. Twilight was really the start
also, like,
of that.
How many people feel like that when they're a teenager?
But that's exactly why. That's exactly why it's in that genre, because it relates to, it's like, I'm...
every teenage girl feels that way.
Harry Potter started that way too, right? He's like adopted into this family. He's an outcast of the family. And, it's kind of this outcast scenario. Bella Swan was just a lot more dramatic about it. But anything with that formula is going to be a huge hit. Now, as an adult, I'm like, please let me be an outcast. Leave me alone.
I mean, I still read like sad girl lit that's like, I'm not like other girls. I'm sad all the time. Like,
that's all of us.
That's right.
I'm like, let's go.
It's my life.
Sad girl lit.
my life.
Well, I think we've been chatting for quite a while, so we'll wrap it up here. If you managed to make it this far, let us know. Were you a sad girly that felt like nobody understood you when you were in high school? We'd love to know. But hopefully we'll catch you in the next Worldhoppers video, and this has been a lot of fun. Bye.
Bye.